All right, we are here with Well, introduce yourself. Don't let me talk for you. Javier Becerra.
Running for government.
Tell us about yourself. And more specifically, I think when I talk to a lot of people on my channel, they're kind of tired of the political nonsense, acting like a bunch of children. How do you want to fix that where people actually trust the government, thinks they're going to work for them and not just get into these culture wars and calling sticks and stones and calling people names? Because you seem like you have a different demeanor, and I like that.
Well, don't do what I say, do as I do. So if I want someone to be civil, to be kind, and to be strong, do it yourself. And you don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to be quiet to be civil. You just have to do it in a way that you respect the people that you're with.
I remember a quote, if you watched the Shark Tank, Robert Herjavec said, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." I've always liked that quote that he said.
Yeah, I always tell people, speak softly but carry a big stick.
I like that. Can we talk about can we call him a fascist in the White House? Or you okay with that?
Well, the description fits.
Yes, if the shoe fits. I was just in Germany, so I can assure you that the Germans feel that way.
Yeah, well, they have experience for that.
What is your solution in order to address this guy that wants to rule the world and play God King across the whole universe? That's Californians. How do you, I know you've done over 122 lawsuits.
Yeah.
When I looked it up, what is your solution to push back against this? Because he's obviously right now, he's doing the gerrymandering, basically segregation of the South, and he was going to probably lie about the election. We all know that's coming down the tube, right?
Yeah. So my sense is that, that taco description of him, that at some point he's going to cave.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
And you just have to know how to hit the Achilles heel of the guy. And so when I was Attorney General and he was president the first time, we had to always know how to attack his attacks. And I would always tell my legal team at the Department of Justice, California Department of Justice, I want us to be ready to counterpunch before he even throws his first punch. And so that's the way I would handle it as governor. And I would tell the people of California, know that he doesn't prepare to get in that fight. He thinks he's got the biggest bully pulpit. He's got the biggest military. He's got the biggest treasury that he can just take you on. As he's fighting out with Ron, it's really so easy. And as he found out with us when I was Attorney General, yes, not so easy. So we just have to be ready to fight the guy. You got to know how to fight.
Do you think he actually wants to win these lawsuits, or do you think he's just doing this to exude toxic masculinity? Because he strikes me as just a mediocre white man that just wants to be a tough guy because he's really insecure.
Yeah, I don't think he even knows what's in these lawsuits. I don't think he violates the law.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go his way, he just still keeps trying to figure out how else he can still do it. Why else is he saying to us that he could stay in Iran, even though the Constitution and our federal laws say that he must go to Congress?
Yeah, absolutely. It was your slogan. So what was it? Doing what's right? That was on your website.
Yeah, where we've been doing it. We've been doing what's right for a long time.
Okay. What are your thoughts? One of the things that a lot of people asked me when I said I was going to talk to you was the homeless problem in this country.
Yeah.
Well, not this country, then the state. Obviously, we have 42 million people that are living here now. So obviously, we're going to have more of a homeless problem than Wyoming that has like 3 people, whatever, right? That's just, it's proportionate.
Yeah.
And I know there's no magic wand where we can just fix it. What I don't like is people demonizing people that are unhoused because they're good people. They got stuck in whether it was housing or tragedy or drugs. There's a wide range of reasons. They're human beings.
Yeah.
What is the best way, in your opinion, that we can actually address that and get those people back on their feet and, getting them their confidence back and making them a part of society again?
Honestly, the best way is not let them become homeless. There are a whole bunch of folks who are on the street because they had a medical emergency, which drained their savings, and they couldn't keep up with the medical bill. And so rent, medical bill, at some point, one you lose one. And whether it's the medical bill or you lose your job, all of a sudden you're not expecting it. And you've now lost your job. You don't have a way to pay your rent anymore. Sooner or later, you have to leave your apartment. And so what happens is people become homeless, but if we stepped in and try to support a little bit, we could probably save ourselves a ton of money. Think of it this way. You lose your job. You're out of income for 3 months and can't stay in your apartment. I'd rather help you stay in the apartment, get back to work, over 3 months than have you leave your place, now become homeless. It costs me so much more money to pick you up off the street and get you housed, get you cleaned up, get you the whatever medical help you need. Not smart.
It's kind of like, oh, go ahead. It seems very similar to like when we go to Kaiser, right, and we do a physical or an annual physical, right? It makes more sense to cover that because then you're basically keeping them healthy versus ignoring that and waiting until a serious illness comes along. That's kind of the way that you're looking at this.
That's exactly right. That my mom used to say to me in Spanish, she'd say, "Mijo, es mejor prevenir que remediar." My son, it's better to prevent than to remediate, to try to fix something. A great American said it just as well, actually more eloquently, about 160 years ago. Frederick Douglass said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And what we are doing when we pick someone off the street is we're trying to repair someone who's broken, a man or a woman who's been broken. And it takes so much money to unbreak them, to get them stood up again. It is easier to build them strong than to let them become broken. And so let's put our resources, invest in people early so they don't become homeless. Let's invest in them early so they don't become adolescents who are going in the wrong direction. Invest early, pays off.
Housing. That's obviously, everybody wants affordable housing, and obviously California is the fourth largest economy, so it's more expensive to live here because I've lived in Indiana and Oregon, so obviously I used to get $440 a month in Red, Indiana. That's a whole different universe over there. How do you bring the price down? Because obviously people own houses, private people, I own houses, rich people own houses, and it just seems like the rent keeps going up, property taxes. How do we get the housing where we can either bring it down since individuals own houses and charge the rent? How do we bring that cost down where it's more affordable? Because what is the average age? It's somewhere like 40 years old right now, right? To buy a house, which is crazy.
Yeah.
What's your plan to kind of bring that? And obviously one person can't just fix everything with a magic wand, but what would be to get the ball started on something like that?
I mean, the main answer is pretty obvious. You need to build more because simple economics tells you if you have a short supply of available apartments or homes and you have a larger demand, that demand is going to force the price of those available homes to go up because everyone's trying to get into that place. Yep. So you have to boost supply, build more. Now we have to build more for less money because it costs too much to build in California, and we have to do it faster because it takes too many years to build a home. And sometimes it takes longer to get all the permitting, the zoning, get the impact fees, all those things paid for than it actually takes to construct the unit.
Yeah.
And so we've got to make a difference so that we can get more homes faster at lower cost. And so the most important thing is put shovel in the ground. Make sure that you got those projects going. We'll streamline the regulations and make it tough for developers to build. We'll streamline some of the fees that are charged that add too much cost to the developer trying to build that unit. And we'll try to make sure that we coordinate with the local governments who ultimately make the decisions about housing so that the state and local governments are working together and we have a statewide housing policy, not just a housing policy that's 58 different housing policies for the 58 counties. And within the counties, you have, dozens of different policies among the dozens of cities within the county.
Yeah. All right. So one thing that a lot of people, and I'm an independent, I'm not left or right, I'm very middle of the road, so I like to be open-minded. The whole thing with rich people, which is one of the reasons I don't like Tom's, what's the thing? Because he's a billionaire. I don't want billionaires at all, period. There shouldn't be billionaires in existence. They should all be taxed out of existence. What is your stance on, because obviously the whole thing with AIPAC, and it almost feels like Israel is running this country, right? Because they're funding left or right, they're funding all these companies and contracts. What is your stance on with the whole getting the money out of politics? Because that's really, I think, an issue where people are living, we got 2/3 of the country living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And we got people getting billions of dollars into politics, and it feels like that money is shaping the policies that aren't trickling down to the everyday people. What is your thoughts on that about the whole dark money thing? 'Cause I know, I'm sure you've been asked that a lot.
And I've tried to do something about it when I was in Congress as well, but it's tough because money gets in the way. And what I can tell you is this: the moment the was 5 justices on the Supreme Court said that money is the equivalent of speech, and therefore it was protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution. We were done. We were
Talking about
lost.
Citizens United.
Yeah, Citizens Unite.
Oh, that's so bad.
That's, how do you compete when there are 5 justices on the Supreme Court who are willing to say that a billionaire has a billion more reasons to get to have free speech than someone who's got basic dollars? You're essentially equating their wealth to speech.
Right.
And so now they get to use their wealth to control speech. And this is what we see happening too often. So that billionaires can run for office and try to buy an office. It's crazy.
It is.
We got to get rid of Citizens United. We have to limit the influence of money in politics. But until then,
Yeah.
for anybody run, for me to run, I'm not a billionaire. If I'm going to run for governor in a state where you have to spend tens of millions to get elected, I got to hustle wherever I can and figure out how I could raise the dollars I need. Meanwhile, some billionaire doesn't have to go out and raise any money. They got all the money themselves, and they just, and by the way, ask how they made the money.
Yeah.
And then see if you want to vote for something like that. But that's the thing. They get to spend their money as they wish.
Yeah. PG&E. That's one of my buddies asked me about that because I know it seems like PG&E, which is in Northern California. 'Cause I know Southern California is what Southern
California gas.
at gas and electric. Right. It almost seems like PG&E is a monopoly up here, and it seems like they can charge us whatever they want, do whatever they want. We had the whole fire up in Paradise because I had a friend that lived up there, and he had moved in with his parents in Santa Cruz for like 2 years, and he ended up somewhere north of Sacramento. Is it a monopoly?
So it's not a monopoly because it is regulated. The utility industry is not an open, free market. And that's because what would happen if it was an open market, free market, where a company could compete to get your business, those companies wouldn't go into rural California because they don't want that business because it costs too much money for them to try to get electricity to
build the infrastructure there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't have this run by the market, by free enterprise, because no entrepreneur would say, I want to set up business in the far reaches of Northern California because you're not going to make money.
Yeah. My grandfather used to live up at Red Bluff, which is they're good people, but it's way up there away from
That's right.
the bigger populations. Yeah.
So that's, when we got the mail service, the reason the federal government got into mail was because the free enterprise industry would not deliver mail. UPS, FedEx, they don't deliver anywhere to anybody for any price.
Yeah.
They make money.
Yep.
And if you're in rural California, it's going to cost you a pretty penny to get a delivery. U.S. Postal Service will mail all over the country.
Correct.
And it's the same price for that letter or for that package.
Right.
And so that's what happens when we have government that steps in, whether it's the mail service, whether it's education, public education, or when you wasn't public education, you have private school. And who got into private schools? Folks who blow. Utilities, because electricity won't go to your home if you're in Red Bluff as easily as it will if you're in LA or San Francisco. You can't have it that way. So we allow the utility companies, because we get to regulate them, to have essentially the market, because there aren't too many utilities that want to actually be in this business unless they can charge what they want. And we don't want that. Or they're willing to accept some of the regulations. And PG&E has to accept the regulations that we have over.
Okay. The last question I had for you was about single payer healthcare.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask this because I was just in Europe and we were just having a conversation. And, I'm having a conversation with a taxi driver in London. He goes, you guys have all this money over there. Why don't you have universal health care?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, you can have cancer and it doesn't matter if it's 1 year, 3 years, 4 years. Just go get treated. He goes, that's what our tax dollars are for. So I know you've had that. I just want to get people to get your thoughts on, because universal healthcare, we're one of the last, this great country with all this money. We don't have universal healthcare. We got people going into debt, bankruptcy, because they can't pay their healthcare. So give us your thoughts on that. You talked about a single payer healthcare system. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So quickly giving you some backup here, some background on this. When I was Secretary of Health and Human Services, under the Biden administration, we were watching people lose their health insurance coverage because they were losing their jobs during the pandemic. Lots of folks lost their jobs because of COVID. And so a lot of folks then lost their insurance. And so they were going without insurance. Now they get tired to be losing your insurance when there's a pandemic raging.
Yeah.
But we worked really hard to restore coverage through the insurance markets. We used the Obamacare program,
right? Yeah.
the ACA. So we boosted it up. We went from having some of the highest rates of uninsurance that we'd seen in several years to actually getting to the point where we had most Americans actually have health insurance coverage in the history of the country, more than 300 million. But even with that, we still had about 25 million people who didn't have coverage. And so, to your point, in Europe, France, Germany,
Greenland.
yeah, Norway, Canada, Japan.
And I think Mexico just passed it as well. It's going to start in a couple of months, right?
Yeah. So what single payer, what it does, and they all have a form of single payer, and they're different forms. It simply means that they're going to be more efficient in how they deliver care, and because they take out a lot of the middlemen, they can use that money to actually provide care, more doctors, more nurses. We actually in the U.S. have a form of single payer. It's called Medicare. Medicare, who pays for it? You pay, all of us. When you get your check, your paycheck, you look at the deductions for taxes, the FICA tax. That's essentially money that you're paying for Social Security and Medicare and some other things. But that's where your Medicare payments are made. So while you're working, you're paying to the federal government money so that when you retire, when you turn 65, you qualify for Medicare. And Medicare, you can never lose. Once you turn 65, it's yours till you die. And that is a form of single payer where the federal government is the payer of your bills. You have to pay a small premium, and depending on the type of coverage you choose with a Medicare, you may be able to get certain types of coverage, or you may have to pay a little extra to copay or something. But you know what you're going to get because the federal government now, after collecting from you on the taxes, the FICA tax, now owes you, once you turn 65, your coverage for the rest of your life. That's a form of single payer. I have always been for Medicare for all. So not just Medicare for those 65 and over, but we should make Medicare available to everyone from the point you're born until you die.
I agree. Well, I don't want to take up all your time, but for people, I'll let you have the last word, but for people that are still on the fence, not sure, what would you like to say? Someone that doesn't know you, why should I'm just being honest, like, he's just a politician. What would you like to tell people that just like who you are or why they should vote for you or why you're doing this? What would you like to say, like, as we wrap this up?
So if you'd like to have someone who's the son of immigrants, who came from a union household, who was the first in his family to have a chance to go to a university and get a college degree, who has fought all his life in public service, whether as a member of Congress, as the Attorney General for California, as the Secretary for the largest health enterprise of the world, the Department of Health and Human Services. If you want someone who's got experience, actually has been through crises, whether it was the COVID pandemic, the avian flu, monkeypox, who has had to declare a state of emergency and pull the country and the people out of that emergency, and the economy, I'd say. If you want someone who's actually balanced the budget larger than the budget of the state of California, then I'm the only candidate for governor who can tell you I did all those things. And I believe at this time of crisis, whether it's the affordability crisis or the crisis coming from Washington, D.C., the man-made crisis, we need someone who is ready on day one, who knows what it means to be in a crisis, who knows what it means when you have to break glass, to take emergency action. And I don't believe most Californians care about the dazzle anymore. You want dazzle, go to the circus. But you want competence, you want experience, you want someone who's giving you results, a record of results. You don't want someone who needs training wheels the moment they walk into the governor's office. Then I hope that you take a look, you'll see that I'm the only one that fits the bill to be ready on day one to be governor.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.